blast off. Bing, ba, bing, 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 bing. Hey everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Magic Monday with Bay. Oh, what are we doing? Pongo does this thing, you guys, where he's like, so he was just laying in his bed. Now, granted, the bed is in the sun, which you can see. And so he was just laying there, but sometimes he gets too hot and or too relaxed. So then he has to sprawl to lay elsewhere in more sun. Honestly, I get it. Have you ever gotten out of it? Ooh, big stretch. Did you know that when you have dogs or cats or any animal or just see any animal and they stretch, you are legally required to say, "Oh, big stretch." Did you know that? Hope you know. Otherwise, you know now. You don't want to get in trouble for not saying that. Anywho's, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, you know how like sometimes in the morning you're like in bed and it's just so comfortable. You're so comfortable, and then you get out of bed and then you maybe go sit on the couch. This is making me sound like a sloth. But like, have you ever just moved to like another couch or bed-like surface and then noticed that you could lay in any position and it's incredibly comfortable? Me too. Morning comfort levels are easily achieved. Whereas sometimes at night when you're trying to like fall asleep, it seems a little harder. It's just a whole thing. Anyway, hey everyone, how are you? It is Monday, Magic Monday on a Monday. It is the 21st of July, which is crazy. That's crazy, right? We are a full month past the solstice. We're a full month into summer. That's bonkers town. That's bonkers town. That means like we're one third through summer. Cray cray. It's cray cray. I hope you're having a great summer. Everyone I've talked to everywhere on the planet is hot. It's like super hot everywhere. It's a thing on account of the climate. Anyway, there's that. Let's see. What's new? What's new in your hood? If you're here watching, always let me know you're here watching so that I can like shower you with praise and gratitude and also talk to you because it's more fun than just having a little pulpit from which to give a speech. So let me know. And today we're going to be talking about how. It's a great question. How? It's not a bad question. Sometimes I think it's a bad question. I don't think how is a bad question. I think we sometimes ask that question inappropriately, meaning at the wrong time in the timeline of whatever it is we're trying to do, or we ask it in the wrong way. And I'm going to talk more about that because I think we have a secret way that we ask the question how that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not actually, it's intended to do something, but not the thing you think. So that's what we're talking about today. Um, I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Tell me. Tell me all the things. So first of all, I wanted to start with the fact that I think often we get really busy asking the question how after spending either no time or not enough time getting clear on the answer to the question what. Do you guys remember? I mean, I did professional writing as my undergrad, and at my school, the professional writing was you couldn't major in it, you could only minor. So I was majoring in anthropology and I minored in professional writing. And for the first 2 years of professional writing, you took journalism, just straight journalism. And so, long way of getting around to saying, you guys know the five W's, right? Who, what, where, when, why, and sometimes how. Right? So how is in there, but it's not one of the five W's. So I always think that's a good kind of little reminder that how comes much later, right? So when we're thinking about doing something, anything, we want to get really clear on the like other W's first. I often think that the best one is what to start with. You know, like what do you want to do? So I think the saying is who, what, where, when, why. And then how? But I'm going to say we should start with what. What, who, where, when, why. just loses something, but it could just be because I know it that way. So we start with what? What is it you want to do? What's the goal? What's the desire? What is it you want? What is it you're trying to create? So let's get really clear on what. And then the other W's help you get clear on what, like who, if it's like, who's it for, right? So I have not thought this through, so this could backfire. But imagine you wanted to answer the first question, what? What is it I'm trying to do? Oh, I want to bake a cake. It's for a birthday. Great. Whose birthday? It's Adam's birthday. Great. So now I have the what, bake a cake. The who is Adam. Where? Probably here in my kitchen. When? On his birthday, May 22nd, for anybody tracking such things. Why? Because it is his birthday. It did work. It worked. How? That's where we come to next, right? And so again, I think we spend too little time in the 5 W's, and then we jump to how. So often we'll get really clear on the highest level of a goal. I want to I'm trying to think of a goal. I want to write a book. Great. So if you wanted to, you could go from I want to write a book straight into how to write it. And a lot of people do this. So you can research. There's no shortage of ways to research, right? Like the internet is full of things you could read. You could take courses, you could read, I'm sure there are books that you could read on how to write a book. I'm sure there are, which is kind of funny when you think of it. It's very meta. Um, so you get really busy with how, and you could also, once you start asking how, you start getting into the like, am I good enough to do it? Do I have what it takes to do what is going to be required? And this is where everything kind of snowballs and then falls off a cliff of possibility. So off of the cliff of possibility into the deep sea in which possibility dies. And so I wanted to talk about this today because we just had this morning, we have it's a free summer structure available through the Forge, and it's literally a summer structure to help people move their projects forward, because we've noticed that it's really easy to take your foot off the gas in summer. It's so easy in every way. Like anybody here finding that their well-being kind of tanks during summer, like it's light out longer, so maybe you're burning the midnight oil, you're up later, maybe you're trying to fit in more fun things, you're maybe um, eating more foods that you wouldn't normally eat, or drinking more than you would normally drink, drinking more alcohol than you'd normally drink, and drinking less water than you would normally drink, whatever it is. I think a lot of the best intentions that we have for our well-being kind of go sideways in summertime, for all of those reasons. And I think it's really normal. And I think it's also easy for projects to kind of slide. And when I worked for the government, which I did off and on for like 12, 13 years before becoming a coach, which is like 13 years ago, which means I've been working for a very long time. Yeah, that's about right. I think I started working, yeah, in professional jobs when I was about 19 or 20. So that's 25 years. Wow. What has even happened? She said, looking at all the gray hair. That's what's happened. Um, Also, my hairs look kind of crazy because when my body was in the throes of um, autoimmune issues before I was diagnosed with them, the stress on my body was pretty extreme. So then I actually ended up losing a lot of my hair. This is a few months ago. So for a few months, I was losing copious amounts of my hair. I lost about 50% of my hair. Let me tell you guys, that's not fun. It's very stressful. And it's like extra shitty because it's a result of stress to your hair loss. Well, not always, but in this case, extreme stress to your body can cause hair loss. And then, but ideally, hopefully in that period, you've moved past the stress, which I had. I was getting supported. My medical team is on it. We're working and getting me in the right direction, and the medication's working, and everything. The train that was derailed got back on the tracks, and yay, what a relief. I'm feeling better. And then out of right when you start to feel better, my hair started falling out in shocking amounts. That again, it's very disturbing to lose copious amounts of hair really suddenly. So I lost about half my hair, which is very stressful, and I felt silly about it because it felt vain to worry about my hair. And I'll just, on the one hand, that's how I feel towards myself, and then on the other, I have a lot of access to how I would empathize or sympathize with anybody else who's going through the same thing, which is it's really shocking and as if things hadn't already been hard enough. So dealing with the loss of, you know, you don't realize how much your hair is a part of your identity. So this is why my hair is shorter. We cut off about 6 inches of my hair in an attempt to slow down the hair loss. Um, and then and then I just kind of hoped it would stop falling out. And I really, really hoped it would grow back. And the good news is it is growing back. And that's what all of this is like baby hair everywhere. So suffice it to say, my hair is going to look a little crazy for probably the next year or more whilst I grow back. So anyway, that's what's going on. You didn't need to know that, but just in case you're like, Bay's hair is crazy, now you know why. You're not wrong. Okay, back to the question. How? I mean, I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time in the how and diving down the rabbit holes of my hair loss and how can I make it grow back? And the reality is there's not that much you can do. Your body's just got to work it out. So to the point of today though, I want to talk about where I see people get really stuck. And where I see them get stuck is they get clear on the what. I want to write a book. I want to run a marathon. I want to renovate a house. I want to buy a home. I could go on and on. I'll go on a little bit longer. I want to grow my business. I want to become a coach. I want to be a sports trainer. I want to be a public speaker. Literally anything. Anything. Oh, hi, bud. There we go. We've moved into the shade. That's a much smarter place to chill out, literally. Look at this little hot dog, guys. Look at this little hot dog. Look at how cute. He's a cute boy. It is warm in here. I'm taking it for the team doing this in this room, you guys. So there's the thing, like, how do or what do I want to do? I want to do all of these things. So you pick the thing, and then really quickly we're like, great, now I figure out how to do it. No, you don't. That's not the next question. Once you figure out what it is you want to do, we need to spend a little bit more time. What would it feel like to have accomplished it? Why do I want to do that thing? What is my what for this goal, whatever the thing is? What is the vision that I have of it? And what would it be like in X amount of time when I've achieved it? What would I be present to? What would be available or possible for me or in my world because I created or did the thing that I'm saying I want to do? And so you can see some of these questions start to creep in, like when? Well, when is important. So if I want to do a thing, like if I say I want to run a marathon, it's going to make a big difference if the marathon is next Sunday versus a year next Sunday. So these are important questions to get clear on because it helps us understand what is going to be required and whether or not it's even realistic or, I mean, far be it from me, of all people, to say that a goal or a dream is unrealistic, but I can tell you right now that if I decided to run a marathon next Sunday, it's just not going to happen. There's no way I'm going from running what I'm running, which is almost nothing after a year off of running, to running 42 kilometers. The most I've ever run is 22 kilometers. It's just like, right? So we want to be clear that the goal, it can absolutely be lofty. It can be lofty AF, y'all. But I also want it to be, remotely realistic. I want it to be, it doesn't need to be realistic today, but is it realistic ever, right? Like, so if I say I want to fly to the moon on my own wings, well, one, I don't have my own wings, and two, there's no air. So that's not a doable goal. So we got to make sure that the goal is actually doable, and we want to be clear by when. So if I want to write a book, or currently what's real for me is finish the edits to my book and have my book ready for publishing by the end of the year so that the book is available in the new year or early spring, depends how long it takes. Right? So it's important for me to know what that is. What is it? Oh, I want to write a book. Well, that I've already done. So now my goal is to finish the edits, and there's multiple rounds of edits. I want to get that done so that I've got my book off to be published. Like I'm done with it by December 31st of this year. So that when is really important. Who? Well, I've already identified my target audience, the people who will read it. I hope lots of people read it. Sadly, there are some people who won't get to read it, and I think that's bullshit because if you write a book, your mom should get to read it. Didn't get it done soon enough. So, right, there's the what, who, when, where, why. So we want to get really clear on this. Building that vision is super important. And I find this is a step people skip. They either skip it or they try to shortcut it. So like, yeah, I just want to write a book. Oh, I want to write a book about fly fishing. And then they start looking into what it's going to take to write that book. And I would say more than 90% of the time, when people start with an idea and they don't spend very much time getting clear what the idea is, they go into the how of it, they are going to talk themselves out of doing whatever the thing is. Because how to do a thing is usually fairly intimidating from where we start. And if we haven't gotten like super clear why we would even bother taking on this thing, you just don't have enough inspiration in the motivation tank to push through the tough parts. And there's always a tough part. There's always a tough part to any kind of goal. So again, what I find is people start asking how do I do it? Or what they really do, if I'm being completely honest, is instead of going, how do I? They say, I don't know how. And I think we think that's the same question, but it's not. But like be honest with yourself right now. How often, when you're thinking about how to do something, are you more honestly just telling yourself, I don't know how, I don't know how to? Because I think it's a lot. I think it's really common. So here we are in the space of needing to do whatever it's going to take to make this thing happen. But again, if we haven't gotten really clear on what the thing is, it's really challenging to answer the question of what it's going to take. What are the steps and how to do it? Because we're not even clear on all of what it is, right? Deciding to run a marathon, like for sure, it's a great umbrella goal, but there's also like milestones along the way. Like before I run a marathon, I'm going to need to run a half marathon, or at least certainly have trained that much. So there's ways to break this down that make it all doable, plus that a couple things become available when we break it down. You get to celebrate more. You make the thing you're doing more manageable because, like, look, you can eat a whole watermelon, absolutely, but you can't eat a whole watermelon in one bite. You can't even eat a whole watermelon in two bites. You're going to need to cut that watermelon up into more reasonable slices. It's a very good summer analogy. And so that's the same thing for this goal, which is when we only have this like grandiose, high level vision, I want to write a best-selling book. There's a good example because we've added in the thing we want to do, but with the reception we want it to have. I want to write a best-selling book. Like to be honest, whether it's best-selling or not is largely not up to you. It's going to be up to the audience. And so we get this idea, I want to write a best-selling book, and then we tell ourselves, I don't know how to do it. We tell ourselves that we're thinking about how to do it. We're not. We're actually just repeating to ourselves, I don't know how. And we're confusing that for the same thing. We think we're brainstorming. We think we're thinking about how to do a thing. We're not. We're actually just like, gosh, I don't know how. How often do you sit and get really frustrated or confused or baffled by something you want to do and you just are like, oh, I don't know how to do it. How do I do it? Because there's a difference between asking how to do it and convincing yourself you don't know how to do it. But I think we really commonly mix these things up. So we need to get clear on that. Because here's the thing, if you are trying to do something you have not yet done, of course you don't know how to do it yet. You haven't done it yet. If you haven't done it yet, you wouldn't know how to do it. That's normal. It's normal. It's making me think of when I was like 5, we lived in rural Nova Scotia, and where we lived, there was no like community pool. It was too small of a town. But, some of the people had swimming pools in their backyard, and thank goodness these people would volunteer their pools so that all the community kids could come together and take swimming lessons. So You had to be 5 years old to take swimming lessons, and my mom signed my brother and I up for swimming lessons when I was 5. And I spent like a copious amount of time protesting with my mom. I even remember this, telling her that I couldn't take the lessons because I didn't know how to swim. And she's like, yeah, that's why we're putting you in the lessons. But I would just insist that I couldn't do it because I didn't know how. And this is what we do when we set this goal. I want to write a best-selling book. Oh, I don't know how. Like, how would I don't know if I'm a good enough writer. I don't know what you do. How do you market it? How do you make sure it's best-selling? Just a wrong question to ask, certainly for where we are, right? We need to get clear like, oh, I want to write a book. You can hope it's a best-selling book. I hope it is for you too. I sure hope mine is. But I don't know, and that's not frankly any of my business. But what kind of book? What kind of book do I want to write? Is it a memoir? Is it a fiction? Is it a novel? Is it a book of poems? Is it a self-help book? What is it? What kind of book is it? Is it a children's book? Get clear. Okay, oh, it's a children's book. Cool. What's the children's book about? Like, what's the children's books always have like a moral or a lesson or a teaching? So what's the idea of this children's book? Oh, cool, that's the main idea. Great. Now, how's that going to play out? Like, what's the drama of the story, right? Because a children's book is going to have a moral, but that's going to be embedded in an engaging story, right? So that kids are interested and follow along and parents don't fall asleep while reading it to the kids at night, right? So you can see how much more time we need to spend with what is the thing. It's not just a book, it's a children's book. Oh, it's a children's book about a mouse that's learning how to bake a pie. I'm making stuff up. And so, and I want to write this book and I want it to be available by next Christmas, Christmas 2026. Okay, that's actually probably too short of a timeline from what I understand about children's books. It'd probably be like at best Christmas 2027 or 2028, right? So it's important to start to like understand these things. Here's all of what I want to do. And then we start to get all of these questions answered so that we really have a good idea of what we want to do. I want to write this children's book. What's it going to be like when you write that children's book? What's it going to be like the first time you walk into a bookstore that isn't your local bookstore? Because like your local bookstore is going to totally want to support, their hometown person. They're going to put that book in their window. You bet. That's not that that wouldn't be exciting, but what if you go to a totally different town and you walk in and you see your children's book in the window of a bookstore? What would that be like? Or what would it be like to see someone reading your book on the plane next to you? What would that be like? That'd be incredible, wouldn't it? So spending some time in this vision of not only the what the thing is, but what it would be like. Who would I be when this thing is achieved? And then we can start to play with how, because we know I want to do it by this time. I know I want to create this thing. I'm clearer on the story. I'm clearer on my what for. Now I start to ask the question of like, okay, how? Like, what's needed, right? Like, how do I break it down? You might need to talk to someone. You might need to speak to someone who's written a book before. There's tons of ways that you answer the question, how? But I want to talk specifically about some of the ways we use how to get in our way. I've already mentioned the main one, which is I think we ask how too soon. We ask how before we're clear on what. And when we ask how before we know what, we get really stuck. And that's just normal. That'd be kind of like me asking how to like make dinner when I don't know what dinner is going to be. Like if I'm standing in the grocery store to get the ingredients for dinner, but I haven't chosen what dinner is, I'm going to stand in that grocery store for a long time, right? Because I actually don't know what it is I'm trying to do. So I need to be clear, like, oh, for dinner, it's going to be fish, broccolini, and baby potatoes. It's literally dinner tonight, FYI. In case you're looking for something to cook, that's what we're doing. Feel free to join us. Like, not at my house, but at your house. Right. Oh, I'm going to do this. Great. Well, now I'm at the grocery store and I know I need to pick up fish, baby potatoes, and broccolini. Amazing. I might also want some garlic and some lemon for the flavors. Like, right? So it just gets clearer. So we ask how too soon. There's there are many other ways that we use how to sabotage ourselves. And one of them is that we think, like I said, we think we're saying, how do I do a thing? When what we are usually saying is, I don't know how to do it. And we mistakenly think that's the same question. I mean, one of them isn't even a question, it's a statement. But when we're like, how do I do a thing? You need to be careful. You need to check in with yourself and understand if are you genuinely sitting there with like your pencil and a notebook and be like, How do I go about writing a children's book? Because if you have your notebook and you're sitting there writing and being like, here are the questions that are coming up. Oh, like what does it take to publish it? Can I be self-published, or do I want to be professionally or traditionally published? Or oh, I need to figure out like who illustrates a children's book if I'm not an artist myself. Do I want my children's book to rhyme or do I want it to not rhyme? Like there's all these questions we could ask about, like in the how space. How do I want this to go? How do I want it to be? But if we're just sitting there going, how do I do it? And going, I don't know, it is the equivalent of saying, hi, Liz. Oh my gosh. Is Ohio super hot, Liz? Because I'm coming to Ohio next week. I'll be in Ohio. Like, I think Sunday. Do I go Sunday? I don't remember what day I go. I think Sunday. I'm flying to Ohio. Tell me how hot it is. Because I was in Ohio last summer. It was real hot. And I'm a delicate island flower. Tell me also what you're making for dinner, Liz. Is it broccolini, baby potatoes, and fish? Tell me what you're making. Maybe I'll change my mind. Right? So instead of sitting here being like, I'm brainstorming genuinely all these questions that are coming to me, like what is it I need to think about and know about? That's wonderful. That is a great way to use the question how. How do I do this? What are the things I need to know about? Right? If we think about it like, how do I bake a birthday cake? Well, I need to know like what kind of cake I want to bake. What are the ingredients I would need for that cake? Do I have the right pan for that cake? And then what are the steps? Do I have a recipe for that cake? Like there's lots of questions that are helpful when it comes to like, how do I do it that we get clear on. But I think what we secretly do is we spend time thinking that we're brainstorming how to do a thing. And what we're really doing is going, I don't know how. And we stop there. We stop at I don't know. And we think we're answering the question of how to do a thing. We're not. It's a totally different game. Shoot yourself in your own foot that way. So that's one of the things I think we do, right? Already talked about that one. Now here's my favorite. And I say my favorite because it is the one I use the most. And I am outing myself. And you can always count on me to be 100% honest because I'm not some coach who pretends to have my shit totally together and you should follow me because I do everything perfectly in my life. No, 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 no. I'm a human. I studied humanity. Literally, my first degree is anthropology, you guys. That's what I studied. Then for my master's, I mostly specialized in like organizational behavior. So it's just more of how people operate. How people operate professionally. Not great is the answer. So then I became a coach and studied that. I mean, well, I certainly studied it to begin for the first year, and then I've been studying it ever since. And I just received my MCC, as you know. So I've been studying how to be a coach and studying how to be a human for a really long time. And the reason I think, incredibly good at my job is because I am one. I'm not a fake person pretending to have my shit totally together. That's not the coach I am. 82 degree. Okay, 82 I can do. I think 82 is doable. Ooh, that does sound good. Pork tenderloin, peas, and rice. I think peas are an underutilized vegetable. I don't think people use peas enough because people have been traumatized by peas in their childhood. This is a theory I have. But I like peas. Sounds delicious. I hope you're barbecuing. Just because it's summer. I don't know. I don't think we're barbecuing the fish. Fish always falls apart when I barbecue it. Um, so it sounds delicious. I will be in, oh my gosh. Okay, hang on. Hang on. What part of Ohio will I be in? It is, I might have to come back to you because I'm having a moment in which I can't remember which part of Ohio I'm going to be in. The hot part where there's a lot of soybeans. That part. It's like I can see it. It's like I can see the name. See, Rocky doesn't like peas. I don't know what it is. Peas. I love peas personally. I'm a pea person. Um, yeah, I'll find out, Liz, and I'll type it to you here once it's going to come to me right after I get off Facebook Live. In my defense, I'm in the sunroom, and the sunroom is like a good 8 to 10 degrees warmer than everywhere else in the world, and I'm toasty. Okay. I'm thinking of all these places in Ohio that I know, but they're not where I'm going to be, so that's not helpful. Okay. And I'm also just buying time so I don't have to out myself for the thing that I do that I know so many other people do. And again, we just came off of earlier this afternoon, we had a Forge summer structure call where we're supporting people like move things forward. And I noticed multiple people in the space of I don't know how. And that's fine. You're totally allowed to be in the space of I don't know how. And to even more ideally, follow I don't know how with I wonder how or how, right? Like I'm going to go find out how to do the thing. But what I find a lot of people do, and they do it secretly, and when I say people or they do it, it's not even conscious. What's happening is your survival mechanism, just like mine, which is like the fancy name we give to the part of us that is governed by our fear and governed subconsciously for the most part. Not entirely subconscious, but for the most part. And it's part of your winning strategy. It's the way your modus operandi, like how you've learned to show up and be in your life. And so what happens is a lot of people when they say I don't know how or how do I do this thing, right? How do I write a best-selling book? What they're asking for real, if they had to be honest, and I'm be honest, if they had to be honest, they would admit that the question isn't how do I do it? The question is how do I do it so it for sure works and definitely doesn't fail, right? That's a different question. How do I do the thing interesting, intriguing, inspiring, motivating, like kicks off some curiosity, could compel me to go do some research, makes me think, could brainstorm, could ask other people. So many things available when the question I'm asking is, how do I do this thing, whatever the thing is? Great question. Great place to be at the right time after we have answered what. So, what first? What I'm trying to do, get real clear on that. What is it I'm trying to do? Why am I trying to do it? What for? What's in it for me? What's going to be in it for me when I do it? Who will I become in the doing of it? How would I feel at the end when I hold the thing, in this case, a book, right? Great. Then from there we go, okay, cool. Now I'm really clear on what I want to do. Now, how do I do it? I got to think about that, figure out what to do. But I think a lot of the times what we do is we ask this question, which is, how do I do it so for sure it works? How do I do it so for sure I win? How do I do it so for sure I don't lose? How do I do it so for sure I don't fail? And that is where 98, making up statistics. This is that's my MBA, guys. But I think it's probably fair. Like well above 90% of people get stuck there. First of all, because you cannot guarantee the success of a thing at the beginning, like before you've done it. You cannot guarantee it. Yeah, Liz. So great. How do I do it so people don't think I'm dumb? Right? It's so funny. There's like, I feel like there's two camps of people in the world. The people who are worried that others think they're dumb and the people who are worried that they are dumb. And it's kind of similar, but I've noticed some flavors. Like my flavor is I worry less that other people think I'm dumb and I'll just worry that I think I'm dumb. To be honest, I think I'm just like my own most horrible critic. So there's probably just past the fence of my own self-criticism and self-loathing is all of other people's self-criticism, or pardon me, criticism of me. But I just don't even need to worry about it yet because I'm more likely to attack myself. I'm a person who attacks inward, so I tend to go at myself. I'm less likely to go outward. But yeah, how do I do the thing so people don't think I'm dumb? How do I do this so that people admire me? How do I do this so people don't see me learning how? Oh, guys, this is, like I said, I told my mom repeatedly. In fact, I'm pretty sure I threw like a tantrum or like a fit or was deeply upset and worried that if I took swimming lessons, it would be terrible because I didn't know how to swim yet. That's why we take the lessons, Bay. And it's also a thing that I want to say I'm mortified to say this, but I'm not that mortified because I don't even think it's that much of a secret. I hate learning something new in front of people. I want to be seen only in like just where I'm good at things. I don't even think that's that weird. But I have turned this into like an Olympic level sport. So I can actually refuse to do things and like get into like an honest to goodness tussle with my survival mechanism and be like in a complete freeze, like a dysregulated central nervous system freeze response. But I'm in a freeze with response to myself. So this is so embarrassing. It's silly and like whatever. I gotta love this part of me because she's there for a reason. And then I can look back and actually instantly be like, no wonder she tried to make sure she did everything really well. Makes sense. Aw, poor trauma, trauma bay. So years ago, it was before we moved here. It was when we were still at our condominium and we were downtown, and I had bought a road bike because I my bike was like a monster of a trail bike. It was way too much bike for me. I didn't need it was and it was a nightmare because I'm not going to go mountain biking. It was like a hybrid mountain trail bike, and what I wanted was like a hybrid road trail bike. So it was like the far end. And it was never it's just like it was a behemoth to pedal around and I was over it. So I bought a road bike, and Adam had a road bike and I wanted a road bike because I was tired of pedaling my freaking 1,000-pound bike behind him while he was whistling along with the wind. So I found a used road bike and I bought it. This road bike that I bought, though, you guys, was way too much bike for me. And that's funny to say because I just told you the other one was too much bike. This was too much bike in the opposite way. It was made of carbon fiber and it was literally the exact model of bike that many people choose to use in the Tour de France. These are like the best fucking road racers in the world buy this bike because it's made of cloud fluff and essentially you're pedaling air. So and I had gone from like a mountain bike, they have flat handlebars and you're fairly upright, right? Because you might have I had shocks, just making everything terrible. Right? So this is like how you are on a mountain bike. And then on a road bike, it has dropped handles. Those are the handles that curve, and then you're leaning down. You're actually in a completely different posture on a road bike. The mechanics of riding the bike are exactly the same. So Adam, God bless him, came over because I'd said, I'm kind of nervous to ride this bike. So he's like, well, I'll help. So we took my bike and we went over to the school across the street from us. And Adam was going to help me. He's holding the bike. All I needed to do was clip in and pedal. You guys, full meltdown. I'm not proud of this. This is like 7 years ago. Full meltdown. I was crying. 7 years ago, how old was I? Like 37, 38-ish, somewhere around there. And I started to cry. I was kind of panicking because I refused to like pedal the bike, which, as we all know, is required so as to ride a bike, which is an activity I've done many times. I, in fact, rode a bike as a full time job as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Like I was a bike cop for 2 solid months. I know how to ride a bike. I know how to ride a bike clipped in. I know how to do all these things, but there was a subtle difference and I fully panicked. And what was happening for me was that I was a little bit nervous about the change in posture, and it was too many variables changing at once. So I needed to clip in. These were different shoes and different clips than the clips I was used to. It was a different posture, it was a different bike, and I didn't feel comfortable with all of this change at once. And so the reality was something that I have tended to do, I'm embarrassed to own, is I refused to try. And I got worked up and I got stressed out and I refused to even try because I was afraid that I would fall. Like we're on grass and I wasn't racing down a hill. Like if I fell, I was going to fall like 2 feet or I would just unclip and pull my foot out. Like there were so many things that did not need to be as dramatic as I made them. But what was happening for me inside was I wasn't saying, okay, how do I do this? If I was genuinely in the question of how do I get used to riding this new bike, I would have been like, you know what, babe? Just don't bother with the clips and just use sneakers and just get used to pedaling in this position. Maybe ask Adam to swap the pedals out to flat pedals just so you get used to the position and we can change the pedals later. I could have said, you know what, I would feel more comfortable if I had elbow pads and knee pads on. I don't know about you guys, but like somewhere in my 30s, I just realized I was fragile and became less willing to break myself, right? Like I could have literally put on more padded clothing. These sound silly, but these would be useful answers for like, how do I do this? How do I do this? What do I need to be able to do this so that I'm willing to try? And instead, I got stuck at how do I do this? Because what I was really asking is how do I do this and ensure that I don't fall off this bike? How do I do this and not get caught like looking stupid? I do not have an anxiety disorder, actually, though I have asked multiple times and I've been looked at. I don't, but I do have extreme perfectionism, and that is a byproduct of just the way I was raised. I grew up in ballet, so it's a perfect world to be in if you want to focus on being perfect all the time. And literally remember the day that I chose to be perfect. I was like 3 or 4 years old and decided that being perfect would be the solution for my problems. So perfectionism is tricky because the way it works is you get stuck and stopped. You get stuck because the answer isn't how do I do this thing or how do I learn? It's simply how do I do this right without needing to learn? How do I do it without needing to be a beginner first? So I don't know that that's necessarily always an anxiety disorder. It's just a place people get stuck. And it's certainly where my survival mechanism gets stuck, which is I don't want to be seen in the awkward, messy middle parts of learning. Um, so pretty normal human stuff for some people. And ironically, there's a ton of other places that I'm more than happy to try and do things that I don't know how to do. So it's in certain places. For me, riding a bike was extra scary. Again, I'd made up in my mind that this bike was way too much of a bike for me and got stressed out by it. So eventually, I'll just like give you guys the short end of the story. I sold that bike and bought a bike that was more of like they're called a gravel bike. So it's great for trails, which where I live, there's gravel everywhere and there's trails. And like, I don't want to be a mountain biker, but there's lots of gravelly kind of mulchy trails that I would love to ride on. And so though this bike is the same shape, so it's got the dropped handles and I'm leaned over and I've got clips, it was no problem for me to learn how to ride that bike. So some of it was this story about this bike that I'd made up. It just didn't really matter what the details were. It was more that I was getting stuck in not looking stupid on this field surrounded by people. We lived downtown, by the way. So it was like a very public space. And my tendency is to prefer to go away and get at least moderately decent at doing something privately so that I can then show up and know how or feel confident in doing the thing. Right? So this is the thing that I think people really get stuck with, which is they think they're asking, how do I? But they don't realize that there's like, in parentheses, a second part to that question that they're not saying out loud, but it's stopping them the same way I got stopped on that bike, which is, how do I do this thing and not fail? How do I do this thing and not look stupid? How do I do this thing and not look like a beginner? And I think that's a thing that gets a lot harder the older you get. And I think as well, depending on what your life path has looked like, if you've had, any like experience of success, or if you have, for example, experienced career success, the further up we get, the harder it becomes to look like a beginner. It's kind of funny because, again, remember I said there's other places where I'll happily do this. So when I was 26, I had injured a nerve in my leg doing ballet. I could no longer do ballet. I've been able to go back to ballet. The nerve actually, I don't know if the nerve died or healed itself. Something happened, but it took years. And so I was getting pretty frustrated not being able to dance. And I decided to go and start Irish dance. It was actually my mom's suggestion. She was like, "Didn't you love watching Riverdance? Go find Riverdance school." So I went and I found an Irish dance school. Remember, I was either 26 or 25. Like, I graduated from university. I was an adult. I had a professional job, and I started this dance class. And the dance teacher was super apologetic because she didn't have an adult class. She didn't have a beginner. Well, thank you. I am afraid that I'm going to mispronounce your name. So if you could spell phonetically your name, I will then try to pronounce it because I think your name is Irish. It looks like an Irish name to me, like a Gaelic name, and I'm gonna say it wrong. It's like when you see Siobhan, it's not written Siobhan, like Charlene. See, I mean, you can see it once you pronounce. Thank you. Okay, Charlene. Yeah, I am much older than 26. I'll be 45 in a couple of weeks. God bless you. Thank you. You can stay. You're my best friend. Um, that's so funny. I was just saying to Adam, I'm like, I really feel like I look as though I've aged finally. Like I look pretty, I played young on TV for a really long time, and I feel like it's caught up all of a sudden, but you're making me feel great. Thanks, Charlie. Um, where was I go? Oh yeah, so I was 26, I started this class. She didn't have an adult class, and she's like, for you to learn the beginnings, you're gonna need like we only have the beginner classes for these little kids, and they're like 3 years old, 3 and 4 years old. I'm like, cool, no problem. And she's like, but like you would be in the class with these little tiny kids. I'm like, yeah, is that okay with you and their parents? Like, I don't want anyone else to feel uncomfortable, but like, I'm fine. So when I was 25, 26, I started Irish dance. I had danced like my whole life previously, ballet, tap, modern jazz. I went to performing arts college and graduated from that before I even went to university. So I have a large background in dance, but I'd never done Irish dance. So I literally started with the actual babies. And the class had like a window and parents would watch and you could tell they were like, who is this adult? Is she a new teacher? Because if she is, she's probably awful because I didn't know what I was doing. So I started there. And then, like, I think I was in that class for 2 weeks, got the basics, moved up to the next class. So I was in like the 5 to 7 year old class. And then I moved along and yeah, exactly, Billy Madison style, except much older than Billy Madison. Yeah. And so for me, that kind of thing, no problem. Like on Saturday morning, I just returned to ballet class after a long hiatus. It's a whole long story. I'll tell you about it some other time. And the classes I was taking during this spring, they're over because this dance, ironically, even if it's adults, like dance goes from September to June, like school. And so summer classes are offered, but it's a new school and for 1,000 reasons, like I was gonna miss 2 weeks of class and then it was six, and I'm like, okay, you gotta go. So off I went to a brand new ballet class with brand new people and just took it. So I have no problem like with that where I don't know something, but dance is something that is my world and I'm comfortable with. But other things, I'm just less comfortable. And I think this is true for everyone. So everyone has their line where they're willing to look like a beginner or where they're willing to look like a newbie or where they're willing to look stupid and even have other people see them as stupid. And then there's places where, we're just like, hell no. And for me, it was that stupid bike. That bike, honestly, ridiculous. Um, it was just like me telling my mom that I couldn't take swimming lessons because I didn't know how to swim. First of all, right, that's why we take the swimming lessons. Secondly, here's the real spoiler, guys. I did know how to swim. I apparently, famously in my family, could swim before I could walk. And it was like literally, I was born in 1980, so like it was a different time. You just slapped water wings on and chucked infants into a pool. There's photos of me in the deep end all by myself when I'm like 2 and 3. There were adults nearby. Nobody, I like didn't throw me into a pool and leave me in the backyard alone. But like the drama that I create, I can enhance it. And that is what I think. I know for sure I asked that question. I don't know how to do. I think I'm saying how do I do it when what I'm really saying is I don't know how. And the more often I say I don't know how, the more I convince myself that I don't know how. And what I'm really convincing myself is I don't know how to do it, so I'll win. And eventually I can't do it. That's the progression of this thought line. And I think we need to really be honest and we have to catch ourselves in the space of like when we're using the how question, that we're using it as it's intended, which is how do I fill in the blanks and not with the secret parenthesis so that I don't fail, so that I don't lose, so that I don't look stupid, right? Okay, Rocky saying writing versus playing guitar. Rocky, tell me more. Tell me more like which of those are you comfortable with and which one are you uncomfortable with? And then Liz, I like learning in public. What, you freak? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Like I said, I'll learn some things in public, just not riding a bike, which apparently, here's the thing, Liz. This is something. Apparently, I'm more than happy to learn things I don't know how to do, like if I'm an actual beginner in public, like no problem being seen being a real beginner, but I am mortified to begin something I already know how to do. That's interesting. That's some time. I'm gonna be unpacking that. I gotta spend some time with it. I think I can already see why, which is I think I have a belief about myself that I should be better or that I like essentially I have no room. I had no room or space for myself to be uncomfortable with this bike. So then I start berating myself and then I just work myself up into like "Ugh, I can't do it. Yet babe, you literally can. You can ride a bike. You've literally ridden bikes professionally. So I think that might be the thing. Where I'm really new, I can actually give myself the space of like, of course you don't know. But where, like the swimming, like the cycling on this bike, I think I should be, I don't know, magically better, or like I shouldn't have any worries or complaints or concerns. Then I get really screwy with myself. Um, well, I think the difference, Charlene, is that like it's not keeping me up at night. And I don't have this with regards to everything. Yeah. So I think that's probably it. Those are kind of the key differences. I would suspect. Most people who have anxiety disorders are often going to be stopped completely and be unable to, like, they'll feel that way about just about everything, instead of like having a human moment and then being able to move past it or figure it out. Yeah. I think that's really it, is that it would be between that person and like their professionals who are supporting them. And it's about whether or not they're able to continue with their lives. Like, did I never get on a bike ever again? That would be a pretty good example of an anxiety disorder. Whereas I ride bikes all the time. I just decided that I didn't want to ride that bike, and I got a more appropriate bike for myself, and then rode that bike. Does that make sense? So I think that's like very, very high level, but people with anxiety disorders would probably not be able to move themselves past it. And it would apply likely in a lot of places in their lives and make their world pretty small. So I think that's probably it. It is also going to depend on like who that person is and like what they and their team of like mental health professionals decide is true for them. I would also say, like, in general, I would, some people are more anxious people and some people are less so. And we tend to, we can have a tendency or propensity to pathologize, any anxiety and then call it a disorder. And it might just be like a normal human thing, like, oh, I was just afraid of that bike because I'd made up that it was really fast. That bike, by the way, really fast. People genuinely ride it for the Tour de France. My physiotherapist used to ride professionally in those races in Europe, and he was like, "Man, that's a great bike." Honestly, I think it terrified me when he said that. He was like, "Oh, I would have killed for that bike," and I'm like, "You can have it. I don't want it. I'm gonna get a better bike for me." Um, yeah, I think that people with anxiety disorders also are not usually capable of moving themselves past the thing. That's usually part of it. So they'll like create a lot of workarounds or not do the thing at all. So they're like it's all a spectrum, right? Because an anxiety disorder, like everyone has anxiety, every human has fear, and some of our fears are warranted and some of them are not. So like every human experiences that, and whether it's a disorder would be whether they are able to, I think, live in the full expression of their lives and feel free to move forward versus like kind of cutting pieces off and living a much smaller life. Generally speaking, that's what I would think. Um, yeah. So I'm curious, like, do you guys find yourselves in the space of thinking about how to do a thing, but you're often more, if you're being really honest, you're convincing yourself every time you ask how that you don't know how, or that when you're like, I wonder how do I do this thing? Um, but it's how do I do this thing and never fail? And just to be clear, a lot of my people are really driven people, like driven. So they would be high achievers. They would probably be considered in the realm, maybe type A, fairly focused people. And so that can be really challenging. This question for people who are driven and focused and ambitious, you like to do hard things, you like to set a goal and go after it. And a driven person, the good part is that they have like a lot of focus and determination, but we can be just as focused and determined by our fear, right? So if a driven person gets stopped, they're going to be stopped like a brick wall. So it's sort of like being really honest about the places where I'm willing to be in the how and be curious and be a learner and be a student and be a beginner versus where I'm in the how and like for whatever reason I have created a story where I've expanded the stakes of this thing that I'm trying to do. I'm creating significance about this thing I'm trying to do, and I'm making it so that me needing to try has to be a hole in one. Like every single thing I do has to be a home run. Everything I do has to be perfect. And driven people can fall into the traps, the pitfalls, just the pits of perfectionism really easily. Um, it's like a it's a dance, right? Because driven people tend to have essence qualities like devotion or commitment and possibility. Those are awesome things, amazing things. And the tricky part is that possibility can start to morph, because what we see is what could be, and what our fear does is it tells us what it should be. And it starts to ramp that up. You should be better. You should be there already. You shouldn't be struggling. This should be easy. And then you get squirrely and you get stuck in your own thing. Enjoy your peas. Just know that Rocky's not going to wish that he was having your dinner. Good to see you, Liz. I hope you have a great evening, and I'll figure out where in Ohio I'm going to be. Still can't remember the name of it. I'm doing great. Um, right. So we need to be really honest about which of these questions we're actually asking ourselves, and be willing to be honest so that we can answer the right one, so that we can move ourselves forward. So you, for all of time, you guys, if you've got questions, write them in the chat. Charlene's been doing so. Like, thank you so much, you guys. It's way more fun when you play like this in here. It's super amazing. A bird just flew into my window and he's okay. We're okay. Don't do that, bro. Um, he's learning how to be a bird in public. I'm not judging him. I just don't want him to die. So that's it. Um, and think about the places, because you're not like, we're not the same everywhere, right? So what are the places where you're actually more than willing to be in the like, okay, how? And like from a creative place and from a problem solving place and from a figuring out the milestones and actions to take to move myself from where I am to where I want to be place, versus when we're in the place of, I'm trying to figure out how to do it, but I'm using how as a roadblock. I'm using how as a place to prove that I don't have what it takes, or I don't already know and I should know, or I don't know how to do it perfectly. I don't know how to do it so it works, and I don't know how to do it so I for sure win and don't lose, right? So let's start being really honest about that. And remember, we only want to use the how question after we've answered the what question anyway. So no skipsies, you've got to do them in order. Have a lovely evening. I'm going to go take these guys for a WALK. And I'll talk to you guys real soon. Have a magical week. Ciao.